Top This, tabletop celebration for weddings and events, featuring Jackie Lacey AIFD, sponsored by AIFD Platinum Elite Partners, BloomNet and NAPCO. Also assisting AIFD artists Ted Brule, Brooke Rollerson, Sandy Schreck, Anthony Swick, and Donald Yim.
Good morning. Top this. How many times have we been sitting in this very audience, or perhaps watching someone else do something, and said to ourselves, how would we ever be able to top this? When I did my first national symposium 10 years ago, I was standing to the side, minding my own business, trying to find out what are all this going on? What are all these people doing? And someone came over to me and said, why are you standing back here? If you want to find out what AIFD is about, you need to get out, meet people, do something. Pete, I'm going to kill you. Seriously, looking back, that's the first thing I learned about AIFD. If you want to do something or get to know people, you've got to get involved. You've got to work with everyone. You've got to collaborate. Collaboration is what it's all about today. Looking at how we can collaborate with each other to increase the strength of the industry, to increase the strength of our businesses, to increase the success of our events. Working with people, talking, making each event the best that it possibly can be, cannot possibly happen without collaboration. We have to collaborate within the industry, between companies, between competitors, because without each other, we are not going to continue to grow as strong as we possibly could be. So when we started thinking about this program, the first thing I said when I was asked to do it was that I am going to have to call some friends. Luckily, they answered the phone, but I don't know if they ever will again when I call. They did answer the phone, and they've answered it quite incredibly, as you'll see as we continue to go forward. And we started discussing how can we create celebrations that are at the top of the industry, that are setting the tone, looking at all of those celebrities that are collaborating with our clients before we ever get to meet with them. Then we have to collaborate with that client to bring our vision to stage. I sometimes wish, as I'm watching some of these programs, that they would go ahead and bring an AIFD member in just so that we could start at the top of the mark, because I think that's where each of us try always to be. Looking for what's the best thing that we can see out there in the industry. What's the best thing that we can be going forward as a business? We want to look at creating a successful event really means that we have to incorporate the 5 senses. If you do that, for each person that comes in, even as they enter the back of the room, you've heard the music playing when you enter each day into this room. That helps set the tone for what's going on. Looking and seeing what's going around in the room helps to create a visual. I always tell my clients, when that door first opens, the first people get to see what's in the room. The second people can hear the music. And then the third set is going to have to rely on their sense of smell to really see the pow that's going on. They see things in layers as they come through. So you have to appeal to each of these senses. Now, each of you should have gotten a little goodie bag as you came in the room today, and we were laughing when we decided to do this. Think about 1,000 people opening a cellophane wrapper at one time. So I am going to ask you to collaborate with me. As we go through each of these senses and each of these themes, we will open a certain thing in that goodie bag. You don't have to eat them in succession. We were trying to think, who wants to put a buttercream cookie, a piece of cinnamon, and then some bubble gum all at one time? Lunch is coming right after, so you don't want to chow down on everything that's in there. But if you'll also use the little light that you were given, the glow stick at the time when we come to the celebration of color, or there might be a flashlight that's in there, then you will be able to see the other pieces that are in. But we thought that this was important for you to be able to participate with what was going on when we came out to stage. First thing I want to do is to talk about, we started with celebrity inspirations, and we're not trying to copy what those celebrities did, but we're trying to look at why in our industry those celebrities create such inspirations. I'm sure that most of you will know many of the people that are on this list, and we look at what they've done, and we are being inspired by that to move forward with one of the AIFD designers that did answer my call and came to help out. Inspiration comes from food, comes from interpreting what we're seeing, and then installing to create the atmosphere. We're going to start with what I like to call white wedding. David Tutera is a very important celebrity inspirer out there in the industry right now. We see he's got his own program, several books, his own line of dresses. We see him everywhere. When I asked Anthony, I thought of him right away for interpreting this. Anthony Swick, AIFD.
Thank you, thank you.
For this one, we're going to use the buttercream cookie that you have in your package, and that's our representation, our interpretation of a piece of wedding cake. When I called Anthony and asked him to send his interpretation to stage of David Tutera's White Weddings, I wasn't quite sure where he would go with it. But why did you think of this when you were asked to bring this to stage?
Well, when I think of David Tutera, I think of something that's very lush, very elegant, but there's always some type of a natural element that's incorporated. To me, that natural element helps make it masculine as well as feminine.
It's very important, especially when it comes to a wedding. Remember that you've got a groom as well as a bride. And so many times we focus on just the bride. But if you look at some of the things that we've incorporated to the table, we've got bling bling, which is so important. Thank you very much, Fitz, for helping us with that. But then we also wanted to incorporate the steel, which represents the masculine, as we bring this to this table. What were some of the other things that you thought of when you wanted to bring this in?
Well, when I was looking at all the different elements, I wanted to look at something that was extremely lush and make sure that everybody was impressed by what they would see when they would walk into an event, and make sure there was also that nice warmth feeling as well.
One of the things that Anthony did incorporate in here were these wild artichoke centers, cardamom puffs. They're absolutely incredible. I hope that each of you will look at these when you get the opportunity. Well, let's see what could happen if we have a little larger budget and increase this to that next level. It's very important that you remember that when you're dealing with tabletop celebrations, you have not only the tabletop, but from that table to the ceiling. And so many times I'll walk into a room and people have forgotten to connect between those two. It's important to look at layering onto the table. And Anthony and I are from the South. As you can see, it's not done until it's overdone. So we started at that point. As we layer in the second level, what was important was to bring in, again, some of that masculine and feminine. Look at the bark that's on there that's very trend forward right now. Looking at the rhinestones encasing the bark helps bring that level up a little bit, bringing up to that wedding. Weddings are important. It's a great time that you want to focus, again, not just on the bride, but also on the groom, and incorporate as much as you possibly can, as we can see. And we're not saying that you want to put all of this on one table. I said, Anthony, is this a sit-down party or not? Because there's nowhere to put plates. We always want to remember that there's opportunities to dress up the back of the chair. If you look at the incredible chair decorations and all that we've got out there to offer right now with different types of chair covers. It doesn't just have to be the ones that we've seen in the industry for so long. This is called a ruched spandex chair cover, which is incredibly popular, very easy to slip on right away. A great way to dress it up, and they've added some of that steel, some of the orchids, as well as the bling bling. Bringing in this next level now bumps this table up. You could change anything on here to incorporate the cylinders or dress it up entirely different. So that's what I want to do. Why did you think about the mirrored cylinders when you bought this?
I love the reflection elements. To me, the reflection elements really showcases what you do have on the table, be it full, be it minimal. So it really gives a large, large impact for it.
Well, why don't we see if we have an over-the-top budget, exactly what that might be and where we can go with that. You also want to remember that in any room that you're setting up a table or a tabletop, an event, don't forget that, again, not only do you have from the tabletop to the ceiling, but you have the peripheral edges around the room as well. And you want to incorporate that as much as possible to bring in all the elements around the room, so as you're sitting down, you get that peripheral view around you, and it's going to look a little bit different. Adding things that are higher, taller than we are, is going to make the room look like it's completely full of flowers.
Nope.
And it's going to give you that edge.
Got it.
Just make sure those are sitting straight.
There you go.
It's going to give you that edge that sends it over the top. Anthony, thank you so much for everything that you've done.
I would love to thank Fitz for the wonderful product, NAPCO, absolutely, of course, Accent Decor for the wonderful rustic elements. My name is Anthony Swick. Now top this.
Looking at celebrities that are in the industry, it would not be possible to do anything in the industry without looking at holiday celebrations. When I looked at this, I immediately thought of Sandy Shrek and bringing Colin Cowie to life. I see Colin everywhere we look, books he's on, the Today program constantly, and Sandy was the first thing that came to my mind. Sandy Shrek, AIFD. Sandy and I actually met on the dance floor at one of my first symposiums, and we spent about 4 hours, I think, that first night. People were bringing us drinks on the dance floor just so that they could get rid of their dance partner and rest while we continued. When I called and said I wanted you to interpret Colin Cowie, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
Well, as I look at Colin Cowie, I see him doing a lot of lower pave type arrangements, but are really lush. And so what we wanted to do is add the holiday inspiration, incorporating the color of the year, emerald. Think of Oz, the Emerald City, a lot of texture and really a lot of sparkle. So,
very important that you keep that earthy look that's in there. And we also wanted to look at Pantone's color of the year, emerald green, and how that could be manipulated within holiday. Why did you select these shapes?
Well, my first inspiration was these finial ornaments that I found at NAPCO, and I really liked the dynamic shape, and in contrast to the illumination. So I've used the square vases as lanterns, and used the flat wire on it if you want to light them up. But I used the flat wire on the top and just created a structure with the flat wire, and it comes over the edge. So just an X cage that holds on to the acolytes. So it's sub-9 acolyte. And so those would be on the table, but what I wanted to do, these would be in the entryway or on the pathway leading up, so you get a little bit of a taste of it. It's an understated holiday look where I'm using some unusual things. I've got the Fujimum is one dynamic flower that I really think is coming forward. And then also the challenge flower for me was the Anthurium. Because as I grew as a designer, you know, you really have to find the face of the anthurium. So we use those over the top to create more dynamic lines.
And I think it's really important that you want to look at different textures and using different sheens and satins, as well as the reflective linens. Linens are incredibly important to any event. You want to make sure that you bring that in. Keeping things clean when you've got a lot of busy flowers going on, like on the back of the chair, incredibly important. Sandy, let's take a look and see what we could do if we had a little bigger budget to spend.
So in here, just while they're bringing that out, I just want to show you the how I created the ornament holders. So I'm using the diamond wire from Smithers Oasis and a Lomi column. Started with the coil and then just come down, wrap it around multiple times, and then you just use that. And so I've used this on the ornaments, and then also later, at one point of this, a holiday program in July, there was a threat that I wasn't going to get any ornaments. So coming out of that comes the power of invention. And so I took the Fuji, and you'll see on the next level where I created Fuji ornaments. So what it is, the best thing about it, using them as ornament hangers and things on the trees, is that you're able to have control. And you know, we all like a lot of control. So anyway, but you're able to adjust those ornaments to whatever placement you want.
And you want to make sure that when you are doing things like this is something that any level of design capabilities could handle when they go to set it up. In my shops, it was always important that even the delivery person was a designer per se. They could do things like this to finish that as you went out to finish the venue and dress it up, because we all know when we get there it's not always as we thought it was going to be, so we have to adapt when we're there. I know that you're going to blow them away, so I'm anxious to get that next level out here.
Well, what we did here is added the illumination acrylic table, the illumination coming from the Acolyte Sub 9s, just bringing it up to the next level and just adding that top layer, additional lanterns and lighting. So then
but
if
let's look and see what we could do if we could take it over the top.
The next element that we're going to bring in is some trees that I found at NAPCO. Originally they come in white and rust, and what I did is sprayed them with Super Silver from Design Master, and so I just added another earthy element into it. And so did the ornament trees, so rather than a traditional tree, brought in a more structured earthy element like the pave designs bring in the earth element, and then also the trees, just doing that. So what do you think about those?
I knew she would take it more than over the top when it comes to Sandy Schreck. Sandy, I can't thank you enough for your interpretation of Colin Cowie's holiday celebrations and how much I appreciate calling you my friend.
And so this is my interpretation of holiday celebrations, and top that.
The next table or theme that we're going to look at, I like to call Celebration of Color. Those of you that know me know that I embrace bling bling and I embrace color wholeheartedly. Again, being from the South, it's not done until it's overdone. Brooke Rollerson worked a lot with me on this one, and due to other commitments, she couldn't be on stage with us today, but I couldn't have gotten to this point without her help and being able to move through with bringing Sean Rebedu, who is very important and really embraces color. He does a lot that's young and youthful, appropriate for any party or celebration, and this is a lot of bold color. I'll be the first one to admit it, but this color palette has been strong in the industry for quite some time. I'm sure all of you have used it over and over again. It's going to be here for some time to come. So this celebration of color, again, is appropriate for any celebration, but especially true when you're dealing with someone that's youthful. In the weddings I've done this particular year, this has been the color palette for probably 6 or 8 of them. They could have had anything they wanted, and many times it was going into a very traditional venue where this was the only color that you had to deal with. Looking at the options that we've got, I used a lot of cubes, which have been popular for a lot of time, and then incorporating various hues of pink, orange, green, and purple was a great way to have a lot of color on tabletop. Where my dilemma came in is, what do you do to the chairs? You have to select a base color that you really play off of, and for this one we chose the green because green is a natural reflector. Looking at having napkins or part of these chair decorations, you can really start to then be a little bit more youthful, especially when you're dealing with this generation. They embrace different geometric shapes. They love use of things that are repurposed, recycled, reused, and it's important that we're showing them that there are different types of flowers other than just roses, carnations, and incorporate all those together. A lot of times people wouldn't put calla lilies with carnations, but I think if you're using it for color, it's just as good today as it will be tomorrow, and it's a great way to layer that budget flower first and go over the top of it with some more that's going to bump that up. So let's look and see where we can take this one if we've got a little bit higher budget and we can add a little more to the table. Again, we're working up from the base, and we're going to continue to build on the shapes that are on there